vote. So we will move on to M6, urging the New Mexico State Legislature to establish a state public bank. Councilor Gibson, Davis, Sena, and Bassan. Who would like to present?
If I may,
Councilor
Madam
Gibson?
President, I would like to get this started. M6 is, did you read this already? I'm sorry. Urging the New Mexico State Legislature to establish a state public bank owned by and for the people of New Mexico during the 2021 legislative session, and I will move it do pass. There's a second.
We have 2 seconds, Councilor Bassan and Councilor Sena. Is there any discussion regarding this particular bill? Councilors?
Madam President?
Yes, Councilor Gibson.
There was a gentleman who arrived late to our meeting, and he was had signed up for public comment. I don't know if he's still with us, but
Councilor Gibson, do you have his name?
I do. His name is Alex Romero. Maybe Mr. Moya could tell us if he's.
We're looking to see if he's in the waiting room, Councilors.
Okay.
He's not in the waiting room, Councilor.
All right. Thank you for checking.
So we have a motion. Do I have a second? Councilor Bassan, and there's not any other discussion. And we will move.
Madam President.
Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Gibson, I had spoken via email with Sarah Manning, who is one of the attendees, in case people have more questions or if we want to hear from her. I did look and I see her as an attendee, and she said she would be willing to speak on behalf of this if so desired.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Madam President, if I may, we do have a number of people who are associated.
Okay, we will pull her out of the waiting room.
Okay.
Pardon me?
And there's
do
like
we have her
in?
in? Yes. Julian, go ahead. And she has what, 2 minutes? Probably.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the Public Banking Act is a transformative act for New Mexico's economy. It's designed to help communities, but also businesses get greater access to funding at the local level. It would be a bank owned by the state of New Mexico, funded by the state of New Mexico, part as an investment. It would work in conjunction with with community banks, with credit unions, and with CDFIs to bring increased local lending driven by the needs of individual communities. So we feel it would strengthen both the banking community across the state, and we do note that there are large areas that are basically banking deserts, but it will also help foster new businesses, and in some instances would be able to help communities with funding for issues that don't easily fit within the bonding structure. This is part of a national movement. We really feel that New Mexico has a chance to be a leader here, and we do think this is going to change our economy by bringing greater access to jobs, new businesses, and eventually GRT taxes. And that is the summary, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manning. Any questions? If not, I'm going to move to Councilor Jones. She has a question.
Thank you, Madam President. And Ms. Manning, I have a question because I think a lot of the people at home and a lot of the citizens, to include myself, aren't fully aware of how this is set up, where the money comes from. That's kind of the easy part. Who supervises and oversees it? Regular banks today that we work with have FDIC oversight and insurance and all of that kind of stuff. Would you just give us an overview of how these banks work and how they are set up to ensure that there's no, to use a very professional term, hanky-panky and misappropriation of funds, and that things are handled correctly? Would you just give us that overview, please, on a business level? Thank you, Ms. Manning.
I'd be delighted to, Counselor. Thank you. The bank would be set up. It would be chartered as a bank in the state of New Mexico. It would have access to, not as a full member, but as an associate with the Federal Reserve System. It would meet all of the federal regulations, FDIC regulations, and state banking regulations. The bank would not service you or me. It can only make loans to community banks and CDFIs and credit unions, and to other entities of the state, including it could make loans to sovereign nations, counties, cities, and other state divisions. The money to start the bank would be an investment from the severance fund. In terms of what it's currently written at, I believe, is at $50 million. And then the state would contribute out of monies that it currently temporarily invests in Wall Street, another $50 million. The advantage of doing this as a bank rather than a fund is that banks have the ability to leverage that money 8 to 10 times. So with an investment of 50 million, that could become 500 million, 400 million. And that money gets repaid. These are all loans. These are not grants. So money gets paid to the banks that lend it, but also comes back into the state. So this is simply a way to get money circulating through local communities in a very strong way. And it's not a one-shot deal. We've known in coronavirus that we've been working with one-time funds that come from the federal government or from the state government. And once those monies are spent, they're gone. We hope they did what we intended them to do. But these are loans, so they keep circulating. They repay, they are repaid as they are repaid with interest. The state makes money, the community lending institution on the ground makes money, and we have new businesses and infrastructure in the state.
Thank you, Ms. Manning. Okay, counselors, is there any other discussion regarding this bill?
If I may.
M6, so we have a motion and a second. Counselor Gibson.
Madam President, thank you. And I'd just like to thank Ms. Manning for giving us that information. This is a fairly technical thing, and I'm certainly no banking expert myself, but one of the things that banks can do, and Ms. Manning did talk about this, is leverage relatively small deposits into a much enhanced value. So, and the way they do that is for every loan that's made, it's registered on both sides of the ledger. It's an asset as well as a liability. So that's what banks get to do, and then the rest of us don't. But the reason I've been following this for several years now is that not only for Albuquerque, we have developers here in town who just don't do the projects that are as appealing for some of the larger investment or larger investors. We have a number of mid-sized developers and smaller businesses who are pretty much, looking at credit unions and small banks, so much smaller. So something like this would give them another option of doing, like, for example, financing a gap between some mortgage that they might have or some other large loan. The other thing that I really like about this is that it creates more opportunities for smaller governments, tribal governments, rural governments, municipalities throughout the state that where they're limited as well. So anyway, that's all I have. Do you want me to close? Or
Thank you,
maybe
Counselor. Is that
something-
your close?
Are there?
Okay, so we will move on to the vote on this particular item. Crystal?
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris. Counselor Harris?
Counselor Harris, you're muted.
I believe he's working on it.
For reasons stated in a bunch of Cato Institute articles, no.
Okay, Counselor Jones,
No.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego.
Yes.
Passes on a 7-2 vote.
Okay, counselors, thank you for that vote. That's a 7-2 vote.